Asana is the method that releases us from past conditioning stored in the body to arrive in the present moment. In this next part, I would like to introduce you to the theoretical part of asana, to the physical practice. Asana, first of all, means seat or posture. Before asana evolved into such an elaborate system of different postures and systems of postures, asana merely referred to seat or posture, to sit in a meditative posture and focused on different postures that allowed you to sit in prolonged sittings of meditation. However, nowadays, asana, as I already mentioned, evolved into this very elaborate system of different ways to conduct asana and to focus on the physical aspect of yoga. And so asana is nowadays a breath-initiated movement. So in practicing asana, we always initiate every movement with either an inhalation or an exhalation. So this is one very major point that makes, in the end, asana a movement meditation. Another very good way of describing the asana and how to conduct asana is stiram sukham asanam, to have a steady, comfortable, easeful and effortless posture. And this is how asana should be practiced. It should not create strain or any intense effort on the physical body. On the contrary, it should create, in the end, in the long term, you should be able to hold the asana in a stable and easeful position. So every time you are in a posture, ask yourself, how would you have to hold this posture if you would have to stay here for an hour? You'll probably feel how your muscle relaxes, your face relaxes, your shoulders drop a bit down, and that's how you should start acting in every asana that you're practicing. Imagine that you have to hold it for an hour. Asana, of course, balances the physical and, as a result, also our energetical body. Through the different motions that we do, we squeeze different energy points and direct the energy in a certain way that makes the energy flow more freely through our body and therefore relaxes and heals the body. And a very unique aspect of asana, when seen as a kind of sport, is the spinal movement. The spine is this conduit that holds our nervous system, but also holds our nadis and our energetical system. So by moving our spine to the sides, to the front, to the back, and twisting, we're able to really bring all the movement that we need in our spine in order to keep it young, subtle, and flexible. And so this is very unique in asana, that you will now, when you know it, you will see that, oh yeah, yoga is a lot about spinal movement. So there are two different systems that I would like to introduce today as asana. It's first of all the Ashtanga Vinyasa system and then the Hatha Yoga system. They are both complete systems in themselves, but just have a little bit of a different focal point of asana. So in the Ashtanga system, it starts with the yamas and niyamas of Patanjali's Eightfold Path, what we already discussed, and then it goes over to the asana part. In the Ashtanga Vinyasa system, it's specifically designed for householders, so not for brahmacharyas that completely went away from our social existence to focus full time on their sadhana, but for people like you and me who would like to have all the benefits of a spiritual practice squeezed into 1.5 or 2 hours in a day. So that's why we have the Ashtanga Vinyasa system. It really compresses all the practices of the 8 limbs into 1.5 hour Ashtanga Vinyasa practice. Therefore, we have a very short posture hold, and this really allows us to meditate on the impermanence of existence. Everything is very fluid in life. The only constant in life is constant change. So this is why Ashtanga Vinyasa is a very fixed sequence. We have this fixed sequence of asana that follow one after another in order to build upon each other and then have a specific goal. From the Ashtanga Vinyasa system, a little bit split off, is the Vinyasa system. This is not bound to the specific sequence anymore, but from my opinion, because this is also the system that I've learned in India, is that the Ashtanga Vinyasa system is there for a reason. And even though at times we can go away from this fixed system to improve in some certain areas, it's always advisable to at some point go back to this system that is meant to be practiced in a certain sequence. The next part is the Hatha Yoga system. The Hatha Yoga system is also based on the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, and it's the more gentle aspect of yoga that we know. Although Hatha in a way means Ha and Tha, so the solar and lunar energy, so it's supposed to balance these two within our bodies, but Hatha also means force. It's something very strong. So even though a Hatha Yoga practice nowadays is often seen as a bit gentler, it's still something that's supposed to be very forceful. Even though we hold postures here for a little bit longer, it still creates a lot of energy within the body, and it's very this force that propels us forward in our spiritual journey. So of course, in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika we start with asana, but the Hatha Yoga system goes beyond just the physical practice. It includes a lot of other things as well. But in the asana part, the Hatha Yoga system holds postures a little bit longer, and we have a bit more gentler postures when compared to the Ashtanga Vinyasa system in that sense. And in order to create this meditative state that we talked about in the asana practice, and also have not only the physical aspect, the asana part of it, but also incorporate the pranayama and the meditation part, we have different aspects in our asana practice that we can and should focus on. And these are Drishti, Bandas, pranayama, and alignment. So first of all, we have the drishtis. The drishtis are the focus points for our eyes to focus on, which goes into the eightfold path of first controlling our senses inwards, so we're not distracted everywhere, and the most dominant sense that we have are our eyes. So basically, by focusing our gaze in a certain fixed direction that is dependent on the specific posture, we can focus our senses inwards and not be distracted. So you have here a few focus points that are dependent on the different postures. So we have the third eye focus, the upwards or in the distance focus, the focus on the navel, focusing with the eyes on the toes, on the thumb, the tip of the nose, the hands, or to the left and to the right. As you can see here, there are different postures dependent on where you have to look, and this is something that you will get intuitively at some point when you're a bit more advanced in your practice, but a teacher should also always cue this where you're supposed to look in each posture. The next part we already talked about are the Bandas, and the new Banda here is the Mula Banda that we're also going to focus on in more detail in the practical part. It's this muscle between our genitals and the perineum that we can basically suck up when we want to basically stop urinating, this motion of sucking upwards. This is the Mula Banda. The second part is the Uddiyana Banda, what we already discussed, is in and upwards of the navel, and the Banda means lock. And we do this in order to maintain and hold the energy that we're creating during asana and not lose it down our spine again. So this upward motion and in and up from this Banda, from this lock, prevents the energy from leaking out again, and of course gives us a lot of internal core stability to hold the posture in the proper way. The next part is of course pranayama. During asana we should focus on ujjayi breathing. Diaphragmatic ujjayi breathing allows us to really heat up the body, distribute the prana throughout the body in a proper way, and really bring this heat into the body, and also brings the focus point, because the ujjayi has a certain sound to it. This hissing sound allows us to focus our hearing sense on the breath, which allows us to be more with our senses within ourselves and then be more focused, resulting into a more meditative state. The last one is, of course, alignment. We need to focus on the alignment of our physical body. And we need to see that we're not only aligning ourselves with our eyes, with the physical sense, but we have a million eyes all over our body, or a sense of proprioception, or a sense of feeling where our limbs are in space. And these are eyes that are all over our body that we can even train, so we know that we're in the right alignment without needing to actually see it with our eyes. And this is how yoga asana should be approached, that at some point you should be able to find the proper alignment without actually looking. And like this we can really train our consciousness to not only be coming out of our eyes, but through our whole body. And so a normal asana sequence would look like the following. In Hatha Yoga we would start with the Pavanmuktasana, which is basically a warm-up of the joints and glands, just to preparing for more advanced movements. Afterwards, in most yoga asana, we would start with Surya Namaskara, or the sun salutation, the fixed sequence that really brings more energy and more warmth in the body and prepares for the following asana. Following that are standing asana. From the standing part we go one level down to kneeling, going one level down to sitting asana, and then going even one level down to asana in prone position, and then the last one is lying on the belly position. And then what happens, we're going to reverse this all, because we've been in this position of head up, legs down. We're going now with our legs up to bring the blood again from the legs towards our head, to bring more prana and energy again upwards. And then finally we end with the most famous asana, the Shavasana, the corpse pose, to really relax the body again. Because we had a lot of solar energy, a lot of sympathetic activity, so now we need to relax the body again, bring it into a state of healing. Because once we activated the more active part of ourselves, it will be easier for us to then come into the more relaxed state. So this is another aspect of asana, to really invigorate the body in order to make it then easier to calm down and relax. Activate the sympathetic nervous system to have it easier to then come into the parasympathetic nervous system state. So now we're going to start with the asana part. Enjoy this practical class.